Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum to students. Welcome to class 9. Today is our English class, so students open your books and come on the unit number 8. In the previous lecture we have discussed the reading and the explanation of the poem. Now we can discuss the paraphrasing of this poem. Now come on the stanza number 1. Stanza number 1. Whose words these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though he will not see me stopping here to watch words fill up with snow. Paraphrasing में आप लिखेंगे, in the stanza the poet says that the horse rider may know the honor of these words, though his house is in the village, yet he will not see him stopping there as the woods are covered with snow. This is the paraphrasing of stanza number 1. Now referring to context, यानी कि इस पैराग्राफ में स्टैंजा में क्या क्वेश्चंस पूछे गए, जैसे वाज द पोएट फेमिलियर विद द ऑनर ऑफ द वर्ड्स. क्वेश्चन नंबर 1 में लिखेंगे एज द पोएट वाज फेमिलियर विद द ऑनर ऑफ द वर्ड्स. क्वेश्चन नंबर 2, व्हाई वर द वर्ड्स कवर्ड विद स्नो. द वर्ड्स वर covered with snow because it was the snowy evening of the winter. Question number 3, give 2 examples of alliteration from this stanza. The poet has used a poetical device, alliteration, those words, his house. Question number 4, give one example of imagery from this stanza. Words fill up with snow is an example of visual imagery. This is the paraphrasing and the question answers of stanza number 1. Now come on the stanza number 2. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, darkest evening of the year. In this stanza, the poet says that his little horse must be feeling queer to stop there because there is no farmhouse in surrounding. They are present between the woods and the frozen lake in the darkest evening of the year. Now come on the question answer of this stanza. Why was the little horse feeling queer? The little horse was feeling queer because they had stopped between the woods and frozen lake without a farmhouse nearby. Now come on the question number 2. What is meant by the darkest evening? It means the evening of winter because darkness prevails very soon in winter. Now come on the question number 3. Where did the poet stop? The poet stopped between the woods and the frozen lake. Now come on the question number 4. Why did the poet stop between the woods and frozen lake? The woods and frozen lake attracted the poet, so he stopped there. Question number 4. Why did the poet stop between the woods and frozen lake? The woods and frozen lake attracted the poet, so he stopped there. Question number 5. Give an example of imagery from this stanza. Darkest evening, frozen lake are the examples of visual imagery. This is the stanza number 2 and its question answer and also the paraphrasing of stanza number 2. Now dear students, come on the stanza number 3. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. In this stanza, the poet says that the horse is moving his harness bells to ask from his master if there is some mistake. The other sound except the bells are the sweep of easy wind and soft snowflakes. Now come on the question answers of this stanza. Why was the horse giving his harness bells a shake? The horse was giving his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake committed by him. And number 2 is the horse cannot withstand cold anymore. Question number 2. Why did the shaking of harness bell mean to the poet? The bell symbolizes an alarm to the poet. The bell reminded him of his obligations to life. Question number 3. Give some examples of imagery from this stanza. In this stanza, we have auditory imagery, for example, harness bells, a shake sounds, the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. In this stanza, we have auditory imagery, for example, harness bells, a shake sounds, the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. Now dear students, you come on the stanza number 4 and its paraphrasing. Stanza number 4. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep, In this stanza, the poet says that the woods are lovely, dark, and deep, but the horse rider cannot stop anymore to enjoy the beauty of woods because he has to cover the distance of miles before he sleeps. He has to keep promises and fulfills the responsibilities before he dies. Now come on the question answers of this stanza. Do you think that the poet wants to stay in the forest? Why? Yes, the poet wants to stay in the forest because the woods are lovely, dark, and deep. Do you think that the poet wants to stay in the forest? Why? Yes, the poet wants to stay in the forest because the woods are lovely, dark, and deep. Now come on the question number 2. Did the poet stop in the forest? No, he did not stop in the forest because he has got many works to do, some people to see, and go to some other places. Did the poet stop in the forest? No, he did not stop in the forest because he has got many works to do, some people to see, and go to some other places. Question number 3. How were the woods? The woods were lovely, dark, and deep. They were also covered with snow. How were the woods? The woods are lovely, dark, and deep. They were also covered with snow. Now, dear student, you write down the paraphrasing and question answers of these all 4 stanzas on your notebooks. Read them and also learn them. You write down on your notebook. Hope you understand the lesson. If you have any confusion or any difficulty, you can contact on the school official number. I say Allah Hafiz to all of you.